Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, where today, Grundlefungus, in the British Tier 10 destroyer HMS Daring, is going to be having an interesting battle in this Tier 10 domination match here on the Shards map. Before we get started, there's a couple of things I'd like to point out about the matchmaker. The first is the presence of 2 carriers on each team. We're talking about Jingles, there's clearly only one, and they're both Tier 8, the Karga on the enemy team and the Indomitable on Grundlefungus's team. Well, first and foremost, if you think the carriers being bottom tier is going to make the slightest bit of difference, you must be new to this game. And secondly, there are a pair of hybrids in this battle as well. Both teams have the Tier 10 hybrid battleship carrier, the USS Louisiana. So it's a double carrier game, fun for all the family, especially anybody in a destroyer. Oh yeah, here they come. Grundle sees the Karga's dive bombers coming, and he's, nope, I'm getting out of here, don't want to get spotted by them, not this early. Wise move. But also, I don't know if you've noticed, that brand new British submarine HMS Alliance is in this battle. Because yeah, that's what the game needed as well, isn't it? More submarines. The reason I'm pointing out the presence of the submarine HMS Alliance, though, is it actually exists still today. You can go on board it. It's a museum ship here in Gosport, just a couple of miles from where I live. And I have actually been on board it. Funny story about it. Well, it's not funny, but it is a story. Many years ago, there was a PC Games magazine, you know, actual printed rather than a website. Yeah, that's how long ago it was. Called PC Zone. PC Zone had something of a reputation for being the bad boy of the PC Games magazine world. One of the writers got himself into some serious trouble with the mainstream news media over a one-off cartoon strip that he did in the magazine. It was called Lara Croft's Cruelty Zoo. Because if you've ever played any of the Tomb Raider games, Lara Croft seems to have a bit of an issue with wildlife. It's like she really doesn't like animals. She must be single-handedly responsible for the extinction of at least 4 or 5 species. So, making fun of this, they did a cartoon strip in the magazine, Lara Croft's Cruelty Zoo, where you could go to Lara Croft's zoo and shoot the animals. So the mainstream news media caught hold of this, didn't get the joke, and immediately launched a Ban This Sick Filth campaign. And PC Zone and the writer responsible got into some serious trouble. The writer went by the name of Charlie Brooker. You may have heard of him. He has since gone on to much bigger and better things, most recently and notably the Netflix TV show Black Mirror, where his dark, sick, twisted and irreverent sense of humour definitely still shines through. But what's this got to do with HMS Alliance, Jingles? I'm getting to it, okay? So one of the other things that PC Zone used to do was they would focus on a particular game or genre or style of game, and then they would sort of cover somebody who was absolutely crazy about that particular thing. And then one month they did Mad About Star Wars, and it was me. And so they sent a photographer down to the naval base in Portsmouth with the intention of dressing me up in a TIE fighter pilot costume, which they'd brought down for the occasion, and taking pictures of me on board the ship in the operations room to go with the article, which seemed like a great idea, only I'd forgotten to clear it with the unit security officer. So this photographer turned up with a costume, and the security officer was sympathetic, but there was no way he was letting a journalist on board a serving warship taking pictures of the ops room. So yeah, we had to come up with a plan B. And plan B was to go over to HMS Alliance in Gosport, where they were entirely happy to have pictures taken on board, because, let's face it, it's a World War II submarine. Nobody's breaking the Official Secrets Act by taking photographs on board. So all of the pictures of me in my TIE fighter outfit for that particular issue of PC Zone were all taken on board HMS Alliance. True story. That's great, but what's any of this got to do with the battle that we're watching, Jingles? Oh, absolutely nothing. I just thought I'd mention it. Well, there is something. HMS Alliance is present in this battle, although not for long. Have a look at the mini-map. The Alliance is pushing and requesting help at Cap Circle Alpha. And really shouldn't be, because the only backup he's got down there is one cruiser, and they're facing at least 5 or 6 enemies. They really should be getting the hell out of there. Grundle's team have lost 2 ships. If they're not careful, they're about to lose another 2. But back to Grundle himself, because he's about to have his first close encounter as he pops his hydro, and it immediately detects the enemy Shimakaze right as he gets buzzed by yet more aircraft. So there's no getting out of this, you're going to have to fight. Now this is really bad news for the Shimakaze, because it is never going to win a gunfight with a Daring. But it's not great news for Grundle Fungus either, because there's a whole bunch of enemy ships in a position to shoot back at him. And there's the small matter of the Shimakaze torpedoes that he's going to have to dodge as well, but some careful work on the throttle ensures that, yep, he's managed to avoid being sunk by the torpedoes at least. And while the Daring does have very good armour-piercing shells, I couldn't help but yell at the screen, switch to the high explosive, man! But hey, it doesn't matter, it's fine. His division mate in the Shikishima is the one who actually gets the kill. And with the Shimakaze eliminated and his smokescreen popped, he is safe for now. He's not going to want to hang around in this smokescreen though, because, well, he's dodged the Shimakaze's torpedoes, but there was a Summers in the background who may have also launched torpedoes, and with that double smokescreen, his and the Shimakaze's, he's not getting any spotting done for his team there. So, right. Well, that's a kill. It's his team's first. It's going to be a while before they get another one. On the bright side, while the team are behind on points, quite substantially actually, they're more than 100 points behind, they do have 2 of the cap circles, thanks in no small part to Grundle Fungus's efforts down here at Cap Circle. Bravo! Oh, here come the fun police again. As always, when you're in a destroyer and there are carriers around, it's not really so much the direct damage that the carrier does, it's the fact that they can spot you so easily. And when you're in a ship class that relies on not being spotted for its ability to actually be effective, yeah, that's a bit of a blow to morale. Here they come. I mean, the dive bombers don't see him until it's probably too late for them to actually conduct an attack. Oh, there we go, that's the problem. Yep, torpedoes from the Jutland. Oh, that was close. Then again, I mean, those torpedoes were launched way before he was spotted by the aircraft, but there was a big cluster of ships there with him that were almost certainly the target of those torpedoes that very, very nearly got lucky. I would have probably risked taking that shot, by the way. The Jutland was on extremely low health, and while you can appreciate that Grundle had just managed to go undetected after the fun police had turned up to ruin everybody's fun, that island over there on the right was providing a fairly effective shield from anybody who was in a position to shoot at him other than the Jutland itself, and the Jutland was probably not interested in getting into a gunfight when it was on that kind of low health. Here come the fun police again, and as predicted, the Alliance and the Drake down at Cap Circle Alpha, who were requesting assistance when they should have been running away, have gotten themselves sunk. Grundle once again spotted. There's the Summers. Couple of shots out. I think that's all he's going to get. Oh, there's the Louisiana and the Kaga, tempting targets, but there's a bigger threat on the flank. Actually, not that much of a threat anymore. The Summers has just been taken out by the Indomitable, knocked out by dive bombers. That does, however, still leave the Hindenburg. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. The Puerto Rico's gone down. Yeah, I wonder if those torpedoes were actually aimed at him, or whether they were aimed at Grundle and the Puerto Rico just got unlucky. I suppose the Puerto Rico was spotted and the Summers was entirely aware that he was coming around the corner. Now that smoke screen over there, that was the Summers. He popped it a day late and a dollar short, but got taken out by the Louisiana's dive bombers. Now, while the presence of the enemy Kaga and Louisiana on the map to the south is extremely tempting, I think Grundle makes the right call here and instead focuses his attentions on the enemy Hindenburg, because that is an extremely dangerous heavy cruiser with very potent and a lot of 8-inch guns that fire some extremely nasty high explosive shells. And you don't want that left alone on the flank. It needs to be dealt with so you can concentrate on the enemy team to the south. Now, while the Daring is a very, very good gunboat, you do not get into a gunfight with a Hindenburg if you can possibly help it. Those 8-inch high explosive shells hurt. So he's dumped his torpedoes and instead he's just keeping him spotted. And there's somebody flipping that cap circle that blood, sweat and tears were shed over at Bravo. And of course, here come the fun police. So there goes the smoke screen. Spotted from the air at the worst possible moment, and yes, the Hindenburg was paying attention. Here come the... Oh, that could have been a lot worse. Now he has to fight the Hindenburg, and it's a British smokescreen, by the way, so he gets a lot of charges with a very short cooldown, but they only last a very limited time. So any kind of assistance here would be appreciated. Let's not forget, the Hindenburg also has an extremely effective hydro, which is probably why it managed to dodge all of those torpedoes. It's also a very long-range hydro, so Grundle has to time this perfectly. Now, the friendly Marseille that he's divisioned up with has turned up and is encouraging the Hindenburg to back off. But Grundle, paying careful attention to how long he had left on the smokescreen, while also noting how far away that Hindenburg was, made sure that when the smokescreen dissipated, he was not going to be inside detection range, either visually or of the Hindenburg's hydro. Meanwhile, the team are still behind on points, and now they're also behind on cap circles, although the Shikishima that he's divisioned up with is having a bit of a roller coaster ride here. He's just managed to get his third kill. The Shikishima is now responsible for 75% of Grundle's entire team's kills, which sounds pretty impressive until you realise it's only 3 kills. So they're going to have to start doing better. And they're going to have to start doing better fast. Although they are now less than 100 points behind, but, well, with the enemy team in possession of 2 of the cap circles, that's going to get worse before it gets any better. And Grundle is now, well, kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. He's got aircraft overhead that may spot him. And the Marseille's killed the Hindenburg, that's good news. But there's also a Salem over there, and he is inside Salem radar range. The Salem is famously the premium sister ship to the Des Moines. But one of the major differences between the Salem and the Des Moines is it kind of has the Walmart version of the Des Moines radar. I can't remember the exact range. I think it's 9.7 kilometers. It's definitely less than 10, but he's also definitely inside detection range now. And I don't know how the Salem isn't aware that there's a destroyer here, because somebody's contesting the cap, and yet he never uses his radar. It could be that he doesn't have any charges of radar left, it could be that his radar's on cooldown, or it could just be that he's crap. Hang on a minute here, Jingles. Grundle's AA is hammering away there from within the safety of his smokescreen. He just shot down 6 aircraft. I thought you keep saying AA is weak and doesn't actually make any difference. It is weak and it doesn't make any difference. Those were patrol fighters dropped by the Louisiana's dive bombers. He didn't shoot any of the Louisiana's dive bombers down. That might have actually made a difference. He shot down patrol fighters, which doesn't make a difference. Although the only difference it has made is that they're continuing to spot him. So the Hawk around that corner is probably not going to fall for his torpedoes. Here they come again. Oh, wait, no, it's the cargo this time. And it's the torpedo bombers. Back up, back up. And the torpedoes didn't have time to arm. Smart move. Of course, now his fun has been ruined. They all know he's here. So he could have gotten a gun kill on the Summers. He could have gotten a torpedo kill on the Hawk. But yeah, now they're all forewarned about his position. Here come the fun police again. And while the dive bombers do have a hard time hitting destroyers, only when the destroyers are moving at full speed. When they're basically stationary as he was there, he's going to need the assistance of his smokescreen. Aye, aye, Jingles, he's just shooting down some more aircraft there. These are actual dive bombers. Yeah, they're Karga dive bombers. Karga is tier 8, and the Karga's thing is it has huge squadrons of weak aircraft. So you can shoot some of them down, but it doesn't make any difference because the squadron's so big. Although it might be those Karga patrol fighters, which are even weaker than the dive bombers. So, yeah, he's racking up meaningless kills on aircraft that don't matter. The Hawk managed to get away there. Took advantage of the lack of spotting forced by the presence of aircraft in order to slip through that gap. Oh, and the Summers has come around the other side. That's a brave move from the Summers. High explosive loaded this time, not making the same mistake he did as against the Shimakaze at the beginning of the battle. He's actually in a reasonably good spot here. There's nobody else other than the Summers who's... I spoke too soon. Shit. Yeah, that hurt. The Hawk, of course, is a battle cruiser. Big guns, and those high explosive shells leave a mark. Oh, this could be bad. They need to kill the Summers. I mean, he's, of course, manoeuvring to avoid the obvious torpedoes that have been fired by the Summers, dumping his own torpedoes. The Marseille is on extremely low health. But they are almost ahead on points. If he can flip this cap circle, you know, again, for the second time in this match. And he is uncontested at the moment. That would really, really help. And for the moment, at least, they have parity on kills, although the Shikishima's gone down. Tier 10 battleship killed by a Tier 8 carrier, and then the Louisiana, the Tier 10 hybrid carrier, nails the Hawk, and the Karga gets himself another kill, this time taking out the Tier 10 Marseille. Meanwhile, Grundle, I mean, a choice of two targets to shoot at here, both of them equally hated. And, the Louisiana or the Karga? Well, the Louisiana's passing out of his arcs of fire, so he switches to the Karga. And his smokescreen is not going to last forever, by the way. This is a British destroyer. It has a very, very short duration smokescreen, with the upside being that it has a lot of charges and a very short cooldown. He's managed to flip this cap circle back again, but the Summers is now contesting it. And while he has managed to nail the Summers, that's great news. The Summers got him spotted right after his smokescreen had cooled down. He only has to wait another 4 seconds and no. Nailed by dive bombers from the hybrid carrier, the USS Louisiana. Although the presence of the Slava emerging from that smokescreen didn't help. So it's 3 versus 3. On the enemy team, despite what it may look like just from looking at the team lists, it's 2 battleships, 2 aircraft carriers. On Grundle's team, it's 2 aircraft carriers, a battleship and a cruiser. Which may sound like really, really bad news for the cruiser until you realise it's a Smolensk and it's basically immune to large caliber armour-piercing shells unless it turns to give a narrow profile like that. Because that ship has such weak armour and is so thin that large caliber armour-piercing fired at the broadside, where you'd normally guarantee a kill on a cruiser, just tends to overpenetrate on that thing. Battleships are only usually capable of doing large amounts of damage to a Smolensk, i.e. hitting the citadel when it's presenting a narrow profile, giving the armour-piercing fuse time to actually arm before it just exits out the other side of the ship. Meanwhile, the Slava and the Louisiana are going for it. The thing is, the Louisiana can do things like that to a Slava at close range, because the Slava is not a brawling battleship. Unfortunately for the Louisiana, here comes that Tier 8 aircraft carrier. I'm really conflicted about this one because, I mean, the Louisiana's a scumbag ship as well. I mean, on the one hand, the Tier 8 carrier in a Tier 10 battle is now 1 kill away from getting his Kraken unleashed. Right. But on the other hand, I don't really want to stick up for the Louisiana either, because it's a hybrid. It's Wargaming's way of sneaking more carriers into games and saying, yeah, you never have double carrier battles anymore. Lying scumbags. Karga's now going for the Smolensk, but hey, it's the Smolensk. It's a Tier 10 cruiser bristling with 130mm dual-purpose guns, as well as a whole bunch of other anti-aircraft guns that don't really appear to be helping him very much at all. He's keeping up the barrage, though, on the Karga and doing large amounts of damage. Are you allowed to do that? I mean, I know it's only Tier 8, but still, it is a carrier. You'll find yourself getting reported and your account banned if you keep that shit up, son. Here comes the Louisiana Tier 10 carrier. Dive bombers. And, yeah, that really, really hurts. I mean, that's, on the one hand, completely fair, because dive bombers were probably responsible for more ship kills in World War II than everything else combined. But that's the thing about this game. It may be realistic to see ships getting knocked out by dive bombers, but Wargaming only really seem to accept realism when it suits them. Anyway, the Smolensk is down. Not completely unsurprising, and you might be thinking, well, why didn't he just run the clock out? I mean, there's not much left, and they are ahead on points. But he's facing 2 carriers. There's no way he's going to go undetected. They're always going to catch him. He pretty much had to fight them. And they're now flipping. Are they both flipping? They're not. The Indomitable is going for the reset by targeting the Louisiana, which is smart. But I think it's only the Louisiana in the cap circle. And Grundle's team are 4 points ahead. Somebody on the team is saying in chat, sink the carrier. Which one? There's 2 of them. Well, maybe not the one that has 40,000 health. Maybe you go for the one that only has 4,000 health. And yet there is a method to the Indomitable's apparent madness, because the Louisiana was about to flip the cap and he's just reset him again. Now this does not leave him an awful lot of aircraft left to handle the cargo. And despite only having one aircraft, he very, very nearly gets him. But if that cargo had been in the cap circle at the same time as the Louisiana, the one reset would not have been enough. The enemy team would have flipped the cap and would then only have required about 8 seconds to climb ahead on points. But the cargo, not wanting to die to the Indomitable's aircraft and guarantee a loss, held back. But staying back and almost dying to the Indomitable's aircraft anyway, and not joining the Louisiana in the cap circle, also guaranteed a loss. Some tough choices faced by the cargo captain there in the dying seconds of this battle, and those tough choices are the reason why this isn't really an episode of Game of Thrones, because they were some very, very tough choices. He could either hold back and hope he didn't die to the Indomitable, but would still guarantee a loss because there was no way the Louisiana was going to cap alone. And they needed a cap to win because there was no way they were finding and killing the Indomitable. Or push into the cap circle, maybe still die to the Indomitable's dive bombers, but also maybe not, and guarantee a win by flipping the cap. Probably a 75% chance of failure no matter what he decided to do, but a 100% chance of failure if he didn't push into that cap circle. Unfortunately for the cargo and his teammates, he did not choose violence, and that resulted in a loss. And I'm sure Grundlefungus isn't complaining, because that was an extremely hard-fought battle by both teams, which Grundlefungus's team only won by the narrowest of margins. There were only 4 points in it when the timer ran out. And it is nice to see a close fight in World of Warships for a change, rather than just a complete ruffle stomp where one team utterly dominates the other, or the match is decided by whoever manages to throw the hardest. So well done to all involved, I suppose. Yes, yes. Even the carriers. Take care, folks, and I'll catch you next time.